So let's break it down. We've got our basketball analyst, Nicole, and we've got our injury analyst, Marty Jaramillo, joining us. Marty, I want to take the conversation towards you first, because we know that Tyrese Haliburton is a competitor. We've heard him say he's going to do everything in his power to get out on the court and play. If you are the medical staff in Indiana, how do you do that? How do you get him healthy and ready to go?
Well, Haley, that's a great question, but here's our problem. It's a potential no-win situation for the Pacers. Why? Well, if he doesn't play, it's nothing short of an uphill battle to win that game. If he does play, he does run the risk of that minor tear that he sustained in Game 5 to further make that a much more serious tear. It's a really difficult situation. But here's our situation. Sustained a minor tear Game 5. How did we know it's minor? Well, he was able to play the rest of the game, but he was hampered by tightness. But what happens to that tightness? It gets worse on the second and third day, and that's where we are today. The medical staff is doing everything they possibly can to minimize that tightness. Why does the tightness set in? Well, the tear is minor, but all the healthy tissue around the minor tear gets tighter to protect that injury. Now, the other issue is what they're looking for is the sensation of a tug, of a pull from the step back to the push off, because that's the key. The step back, which is a lengthening contraction or a deceleration contraction, to the push off. If he has any sensations of that tug, he simply cannot play, because he can predispose himself to a calf tear and even potentially an Achilles tear.
Certainly a lot to think of, not just for tomorrow's game, Ashley, but long-term as well. But you know this more than anything. Athletes are going to do whatever it takes to get out there on the field, or on the court, I guess, when you're talking basketball. When it comes to Tyrese Haliburton, we've already seen him try to push through an injury, right? He came back in that second half, and he finished with 4 points, 0 of 6 from the floor. How much of that weighs on the coach's decision to play him or not?
It weighs on it. I mean, because I think it's a 50-50 situation. You can do more harm to your team being out there if your mobility is not at least 50%. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is what is his level of mobility? Is it 70%? Is it 80%? Because I believe a 70% Tyrese Haliburton is better than no Tyrese Haliburton, especially when you talk about what he brings to the offense. Let's take his scoring out of the equation, just from an assist playmaking ability. But as we saw in Game 5, if he's not at least 50%, I ideally would want a higher percentage from him, he can do more harm to his teammates being out there, because he doesn't do any of the things that he does well. And that is the decision Rick Carlisle has to make. Is he going to be an asset or a liability on that floor? But it is Game 6, your season's on the line, and you know the medical staff has to save the player from themselves a lot of the time, because the athlete wants to go out there and compete. To Marty's point, you can do more damage to your body, to your next season, if you are out there. But look, if you can get the mobility that you feel comfortable with Tyrese Haliburton in Game 6, you got to put him out there. If I was Tyrese Haliburton and I had something in the tank and I wasn't go. Suit me up. I'm out there. Lace me up.
1,000%, Ashley. So well said. A 70% Haliburton is as good as any starter in the NBA. But here's a really interesting fact. From 2012 to today, the average NBA team runs an extra 200 miles per season. Remember that. 200 extra miles per season. And the brunt of that extra miles are the stars like Haliburton. We are in full effect the load management era.
Crazy to think about the number. Real quick, who's your pick? Pacers Thunder tomorrow.
I think it's over. Oklahoma is packing them up.
All right. See you later, Pacers. It's been fun. Marty says Pacers, though, so maybe we're going 7. Either way, here's what the rest of the slate looks like in the NBA Finals. Of course, Game 6 tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The Pacers have to win that game if they're going to force a Game 7. If they do so, like Marty Jaramillo says, that one set for 8 o'clock Eastern from OKC.